With hundreds of indie games coming out each year, it can be difficult to parse through them. Figuring out which ones are worth your time is an entire chore by itself. Often we have to rely on word of mouth to find those indie games that really sparkle. Consider this video a kind of word of mouth. A particular group of single-player games has captured my attention as being similar and of a particularly high quality. Games like Celeste, Stardew Valley, and Undertale. There are other great indie games, of course, but these are our examples for today. Despite the fact that all three of these games are technically in different genres, I feel they all share an important quality: earnestness. By earnestness, I mean an incredibly sincere conviction toward a belief in the goodness of people and simple but excellent gameplay. In this video, I want to propose a definition for the Earnest game as I understand it and submit the recently released Ikenfell for your consideration into this select category. I am endeavoring to spoil these games as little as possible, in particular Eichenfel, because they are all worth playing, and I desire for you to finish this video wanting to play them, because this might be my favorite meta-genre of games being made today. Before we begin, you might have already realized that all our examples are indie games made by singular individuals or small teams. This is not an accident. To make a game with sincere conviction like this almost necessitates the vision of a single person. There is a quirkiness to these games, each of them holding a salient worldview that privileges human dignity in the face of conflict. Such unique dispositions presented in conjunction with sincere game design are hard to come by in any game made by committee, because such games often revert to what might otherwise be described as safe choices. The sole designer has perhaps more freedom to make the bold, creative decisions that we find in these earnest games. That said, a genre is only as useful as it describes something, so might I propose that Earthbound be our proto-Earnest game, and you can place whatever game you'd like to be in this genre as well. It's not mine, it's ours. Finally, a quick primer on Ikenfell. It came out last year, was developed by Happy Ray Games, and is about a girl searching a magical school for her sister. Think Harry Potter meets Final Fantasy. The combat is like a board gamified tactics game. Anyway, without further ado, the Earnest game is disarmingly innocent. It's difficult to dislike these games' characters because they are sweet to the protagonist and to each other. In the Earnest game, characters have a tendency to be incredibly straight with the player. They will speak plainly as to how they are feeling, whether to other characters or to themselves. This kind of emotional vulnerability gives players an opportunity to empathize with these characters and see themselves in them. Humor is often tactically employed in the Earnest game as both a relief and a way to get closer to the game's characters, such as Sans' bad puns in Undertale or Theo's obsession with selfies in Celeste. The characters in Earnest games are often quite quirky, which adds to this humor and creates memeable moments like Abigail eating rocks in Stardew Valley. Thus, even when these games do give the player a choice to hurt other characters, whether by supporting Joja at the expense of a small town economy in Stardew Valley, or by attacking and killing characters in Undertale, undergoing such a path simply feels wrong. In the Earnest game, there are no bad guys. No one is truly evil. Instead, even the villains are well developed and typically redeemable. Even when characters are wrong, they are not deceitful, but acting on a worldview that the player will slowly come to understand. This all culminates in these games having an almost strange sense of knowing about them, like they know they are a game at some level. But everything in the Earnest game is played so straight that this knowing feeling disarms the player and allows them to become more fully immersed in the fiction of the game. This is a difficult tightrope to cross, because the Earnest game could fall into the pit of becoming a meta-text, overly referential to itself and obfuscated to the player. Or it can lead to the problem that some children's media have, where the worlds of the game are so innocent, they are simply boring. Thus, underneath the simple and enjoyable surface of the Earnest game lies darker and more interesting stories that the player only finds by engaging thoughtfully with the game. This makes these narratives rewarding for the player, who gets more out of the game the more they put into it. Ikenfell checks all of these boxes. The characters of the game are quirky, fun, and relatable, and the more you get to know them, the more you learn their secrets and find their depth. It is easy to empathize with their struggles and drama because by the time you get to those struggles, you already like these characters and care about them. Much of the game's aesthetic reaffirms this innocence, whether it is the cats used as save points, the honest ways characters talk to one another, or that despite the fact that the player defeats many enemies, those enemies are rarely ever destroyed or killed in the process. You might as well have beat them in a chess match as much as deadly magical combat. Eichenfell is, thus, a particularly sincere experience, its characters wholesome and its drama heartfelt. But any game can be sincere. The Earnest game also mixes the fantastical with the real, creating a magical realist vibe. In Celeste, everywhere that is not the mountain seems like the typical world. Theo is from Seattle, and characters use smartphones and computers. But on the mountain, everything becomes mysterious and strange. Monsters and ghosts come out of the woodwork. The psychological becomes real. Similarly, Undertale's player character is an otherwise normal child entering into the strange underworld of monsters. In Stardew Valley, spirits watch over the player, and they encounter Monster Hunter-esque creatures within the mines below the town. The player is the fish out of water here. They know our world, but not the world of magic, and thus learns with us as we go. This supernatural quality is important for the Earnest game because it goes hand in hand with their sincerity. Magic is not just incidental here, but plays a key role in reinforcing the uniqueness of the spaces the player finds themselves in. The fantastical nature of the world reflects the turmoil of these characters, pushing them together and pulling them apart, making their internal struggles external. Once materialized, these struggles become more than the sum of their otherworldly parts. Eichenfell is no different. Maret, the game's central character, is an ordinary human until she heads to Eichenfell to find her sister. She is a newcomer to this space as she explores it, a mirror to our experience as players. The magic of the game's world is deeply reflective of the personalities of the characters, acting as an extension of their unique qualities and giving them more flavor. The human drama and sincerity of the characters is the heart of these games, but their fantastic settings are not just set dressing, they help make the drama more real to the player. Though the Earnest game is still a game, it's not just a story. The Earnest game is wont to commit to a simple concept and add unique twists to that concept to make its gameplay fun. The player of the Earnest game has to master relatively straightforward systems, with every new encounter piling more for them to learn, but never so much as to overwhelm them. In Celeste, the abilities available to the player barely change from start to finish, but each level introduces some new kind of obstacle they must interact with to proceed. In Undertale, the basics of combat also never really change, but each enemy the player interacts with uses that basic system differently, making each fight feel unique. Stardew Valley's farming is as straightforward as you'd expect. Plant seeds and water them, but to have a truly successful farm, you'll slowly add more and more on top of that as seasons pass. The simplicity of these systems does not mean they are easy, but it does mean that they don't get in the way of the player's ability to understand what's going on. You are pretty much always sure what you need to do in these games. It's just your ability to do it that is in question. By laying bare their ludic qualities, Earnest Games are as straightforward with their gameplay mechanics as they are with their narratives. These are the kind of games that balk at terms like ludonarrative dissonance. There is nothing dissonant here. The gameplay and narrative work in simple, sincere harmony. Ikenfell likewise has a pretty simple concept. It's got tactics-light gameplay but manages to stay refreshing by forcing the player to time button presses every time they attack or are attacked. The way the game mixes up these timings keeps each enemy and fight feeling fresh. Likewise, unlocking new spells and abilities across the course of the experience keeps the player on their toes. Just as a side note, the Earnest game is sometimes quite difficult, but typically does not overly punish the player for failure. In Celeste, the player restarts on the same screen as they died, and in Ikenfell, you can restart from the start of the battle if you fail. It's like these games have never even heard of Dark Souls. The graphics of these games are invariably simple. This could be construed as a lack of resources on the part of the developer, but like the gameplay and the characters, the aesthetic of these games is simple. Bright, obvious colors reveal the hospitable nature of these games and their straightforward ideals. To be honest, when I first played Undertale, the graphics almost turned me off of it. I thought the game was ugly. But the fact that I pushed through and overcame that hesitation made my eventual turning to appreciate its beauty even more meaningful. These games don't win you over with photorealism, dynamic visuals, big explosions, or sexy characters, but with their dialogue boxes, their heartfelt messaging, and their wonderful music. And I don't know why, but I guess great music is a prerequisite for the Earnest game. Undertale has some of the most memorable tunes of any game I've ever played, and I literally was never evil enough to experience the awe-inspiring Megalovania naturally. I saved that for Beat Saber. Celeste, Ikenfell, and Stardew Valley are no slouches either. The music is often simple in these games, evoking earlier eras of game creation. I've limited myself to one song to recommend to you from each game. I wrote this list down without listening to any of the songs. Here it is. You can feel free to pause this video and go listen. I don't mind, just find your way back. Listen, buddy, the music from these games has been playing this whole time. If that doesn't inspire you to go click the heart on their Spotify albums, I don't know what will. Simply put, their music speaks for itself. But like their gameplay, it harmonizes perfectly with the themes these games present to their players. It is an extension of their sincerity, of their earnestness. Perhaps most importantly, the Earnest game treats its subject matter seriously, despite its jovial nature. Stardew Valley may not be realistic like Farming Simulator 20, but it's seriously committed to giving the player a grounded experience. No character is flippantly thrown in the game for you to mock or not care about. No mechanic is there for you to just look over. These games try hard not to be played as toys for you to mess around with. This isn't Gary's Mod. Celeste's journey into the conflict of a depressed woman is serious. Undertale's discussions of human nature in its various routes range from inspiring to heartbreaking. The stories of individual characters in Stardew Valley are salient enough to make them feel real and present. These games are razor thin. They don't conceal their meaning behind layers of obscured gameplay systems or tricky narrative twists. They don't have huge side quests you can bury yourself in and completely forget the main story. They are about that main story, and they take their obligation to showcase the complexity and decency of their characters, mechanics, and stories incredibly seriously. Eichenfell is serious in this way. Whether it's the ways that the game platforms LGBTQ characters, communicates themes of broken relationships, or privileges showing every side of every story, Eichenfell does not relent on its mission to make you feel. It is a serious game, even if it has simple graphics and gameplay. Nothing here feels unintentional, lost, or forgotten. Every decision from a design perspective is purposeful, geared toward the player having an authentic experience with the game. The Earnest game goes beyond being authentic though, because at the end of the day, these games have a bright view of people, even as they showcase their flaws and errors. They have a fidelity to themselves. I can think of other Earnest media like Steven Universe or The Iron Giant, which also have a purposeful, sincere disposition. But what makes the Earnest game special is that it is a game, that the player joins in with the earnestness, with the sincerity. In this way, the Earnest game asks you to leave an offering to it, a piece of yourself, and returns that bit of you back with a little bit more hope and sincerity imbued within. That's the trick and beauty of the Earnest game. it imparts its earnestness onto you. Do you have an Earnest game you'd like me to play and write on? Let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, and strike that bell with the fury of 1,000 harpies that have been denied the chance to play Undertale. See you next week when we discuss a very much not Earnest game from 2020. Carry on.